be sensitive to other things tend to be lower as we gain more power, right? That's what we talked about last class. Today, we will talk about de-individuation. So, when you are a member of a group, when you are just one person in a certain group, you may end up doing something that you wouldn't do as an individual. So many aspects of human mind only arise when people are in groups. So as a group, or as a member of a group, you may end up doing something you wouldn't do as an individual. So when you are in groups, what will happen? What do you think? When you are just one of them, or when you are just one of us, tend to conform. Like, why? Right. So you may conform to groups at the expense of your individual feelings. Right? So sometimes you are being lost in a crowd. Right? Another way of saying it is your self-awareness decreases. You lose yourself. So you're not just you. You're just one of them, or one of us, one of a group. So if you lose yourself, then your motivation to regulate yourself also decreases. Right? You are just being lost in a crowd. Right? Your sense of self decreases. So no self-regulation. So anonymity. Then lack of accountability. You are not responsible, right? You are just one of them. You are lost. So then what might happen in this situation? If you think you are just one of them, if your self-awareness decreases, then what will happen? Irresponsible behavior, right? Diffusion of responsibility. So all the negative things can happen. So de-individuation lead to more impulsive, emotional, irrational, and sometimes antisocial behaviors. Right? There are lots of historic examples. Lynch mobs, riots, military atrocities. So they are just one of them. Then they can do something they wouldn't do as an individual. So people tend to do something that is against their personal values if they feel that they are just one of them. Right? So if you are in groups, you're just one of them, what will happen is you are anonymous. Your personal identity is obscured. Right? So diffusion of responsibility. You are not known, so you think that you are not responsible. And then being surrounded by other people, arousal, right? Excitement. And then a lot of things are going, so you are overwhelmed. You just lose yourself, right? And then all these things can happen, so the result, all these negative things can increase, like impulsive, irrational, emotional, or antisocial behavior. The tendency to engaging in these behaviors increase. One example is suicide rate. Suicide rate. Right? So someone is trying to attempt to suicide on the top of really tall building, and then a lot of people suddenly they may say, "Oh, jump, jump, jump." Right? If you are just only one individual up there, and then your personal identity is clearly known, then you wouldn't say that, right? But sometimes people do this, especially they think that they are just one of them, and then their identity is hidden. So researchers analyzed newspaper reports about suicide baiting. And what they found is this. Suicide baiting was twice as likely to occur with a large crowd present. In other words, the sense of self is low. A lot of people, you can hide. And then suicide baiting is 4 times as likely to occur at night. Right? Again, your identity is hidden, is obscured. Then you may end up doing something like this. Right? Something that is against your personal values. Not all the times, but sometimes we can do something like this. Right? Anonymity and then diffusion of the responsibility. Right? So this is just graphical summary of what I have been saying. Right? Crowd size, more than 300, twice more. After 6 p.m., everything is dark, 4 times as likely as before 6 p.m. Right? So de-individuation. Right? Your individual identity is hidden, and something like this. Right? Lynching and warfare, you're just one of the soldiers, right? Not personal identity, not me, just one of them. Then you can be very cruel to others. Especially if they are seen as enemies or rivals. Right? So de-individuation is bad, but it can be even worse. The other groups are seen as enemies or rivals. Right? This is kind of extreme example, but more everyday example is like this. Halloween, right? You have to disguise at Halloween, right? So disguise identity may lead to de-individuated states, right? By the speaking of Halloweens, so Americans are doing this, what is this? Trick or treat, right? So I had no experience with it. Right? Then 2 or 3 years ago, probably 3 years ago, I got a house. Right? So before that, I used to live in an apartment. So no children came to my house to get candies. Right? So I had 0 experiences about 3 years ago. And then at Halloween on that day, I had a class until like 5. So I have to teach. So I was really tired. So I went back home, then I'm kind of changing my clothes, right? So it's really not ideal state. Right? I'm changing in the middle of changing clothes, and doorbell rang. So someone knocked the door. So I didn't expect. So I opened the door, and really, really cute children were there. And they wanted to want some candies. But even worse than that is this. Their parents is shooting, right? I was really, really embarrassed. So, even now, I wanted to find out that we and then read everything. But anyways, that's my first memory of Halloween. Nowadays, I prepare some candies. So experience is good. But anyway, Halloween, everyone, this can really happen, right? Disguised identity. So, on average, in the US, many forms of uninhibited or impulsive behavior occur at Halloween. Maybe this is not coincidence, right? Their personal identity is hidden. And then there is a really interesting study about this. So participants in this study were children. And then basically, some children arrive alone. Some other children, they arrive in groups. And then there's another variation. Some children's personal identity is known. So name tag, for example. So your name is public. In another condition, no name tag. So no personal identity whatsoever. Right? And then there were a candy jar, and then they were asked to pick just one candy, right? Because a lot of children are playing, so you need to have, you should get just one candy, right? No more than one, right? And then nobody was watching. So what would happen is this. When they arrive alone, and then they are not individuated, their name is not known, they pick slightly more candies when their name is known, right? Although they were asked to, instructed to just pick one candy, they violated that, and then they just get more and more candies, right? But they arrived in groups, and then their name is unknown. Huge increase. Everyone, almost, not almost, more than 60% of them picked more than one candy. Right? Probably people in this condition is not necessarily bad compared to children in this group, right? So the situation drive this effect, right? So their personal identity is really hidden because they arrive in groups and their name is not known. Then children are more likely to violate the law. And it is not limited to children. Right? Human beings have this system. If your personal identity is hidden. So the opposite of de-individuation is individuation. Right? So lose or decrease in self-awareness lead to antisocial behavior. Then increase in self-awareness may increase pro-social behaviors or behavior that is consistent with your personal values. Right? So enhanced sense of individual identity lead people to act carefully and deliberately and in accordance with their sense of values. So behavior that is consistent with their personal values. So one study is this. Participants are college students. They were asked to do a certain cognitive task, but there is time limit. So they have to do a very simple task, but they only have like a couple minutes, 2 minutes, and then they have to stop. Right? But there was no experimenter while they are performing the task. So they were alone. And then most of the students, they cheated. They were instructed to have only 2 minutes, but they performed the task more than 2 minutes, right? They cheated, but the percentage of cheating significantly dropped when a mirror is placed in front of them at their eye level. So while they are performing the task, if they can see themselves, self-awareness increases. Whenever you saw a mirror, you can see yourself, right? So the sense of self can be enhanced in that way. Then percentage of cheating drops. So there are a lot of variation, but the small things like mirror can be very effective. So less than 10% cheating if mirror is placed. But sometimes enhanced self-awareness or enhanced sense of the self is really good, but sometimes we do have too much self-awareness. For example, here, imagine that you go to a dinner party and discover that everyone except you brought a gift for the host. you are the only one who did not prepare gift for the host, right? Then question is this: how harshly you will be judged by the host for this omission, for this mistake? Next question: how harshly you judge a guest who failed to bring a gift? One of your guests did not prepare any gift for you. Second question: then how harshly you evaluate that person? The finding, usually people are much more negative for item 1 than for item number 2. Right? Why? They focus on the self. So you are thinking about yourself, right? Oh gosh, I didn't bring a gift. But from the perspective of the host, you are just one of the guests. You are not the only guest. So they do not usually pay close attention to each and every guest, right? Just one of them, right? But for you, from your perspective, you are only focusing on yourself, right? So too much attention on yourself. So a lot more negative valuation. Right? Think about bad hair day, right? And then whenever you meet with someone, you may, oh gosh, I have bad hair. The other person probably wouldn't care, right? You are just one person they encounter, right? They are interacting with a lot of people. You're just one of them, right? So they are not paying close attention to you. But for you, you focus on yourself, right? And then you change your clothes. Everyone. You change your glasses for example. You may believe that everyone will notice that. Probably not. It is really important for you, but not for other people, right? So that's spotlight effect. Sometimes we think that spotlight is on the self, on us, but that's not the case, right? People interact with a lot of people every day. So other people, they do not pay close attention to us. Right? Somehow we believe that there is always spotlight that's on us. So we have to pay close attention. So that's spotlight. So decrease in self-awareness, antisocial or impulsive emotional behavior. Increase in self-awareness, desirable behavior, behavior that is consistent with personal value. But sometimes we have heightened sense of self-awareness, right? In reality, other people may not pay attention to it, right? So that's it.
Could the spotlight effect be related to maybe the way people see us as ourselves, but we can't really see ourselves? Like, if we're looking in a mirror, we're just looking at a reflection, but people can see ourselves a little more.
Right. So we do not have any direct access to others' minds. So we have to make a guess what other people may think about us, right? In order to make that inference, our judgment is based on our mind. Right? So for me is the most important thing, right? But for other people, that may not be the case, right? But based on our mind, we have this error. Maybe he may also think about me, because I'm thinking about myself all the time.
And wasn't that really with age? Because I know adolescents are really
At a certain point, this will be more pronounced. I do not have any empirical data, but easily that may be right. Adolescents, peer group is really important, right? So they are really sensitive to others. Possibly this effect may be more pronounced among adolescents. That's possible, but at this point,
My
I
previous
don't have
class.
any empirical data.
So the one before this.
Other
I'm taking
questions?
two. Psychology class.
Okay, then chapter 13 is aggression. So let's talk about aggression. So human beings, as a human being, we can be aggressive, right? We can be violent, right? There are so many historical examples. Genocide, ethnic cleansing, right? Really, really violent. They may be these events are maybe exceptional, right? The human beings can do something like this, right? So we have potential to be aggressive. Even probably any of us may end up doing something like this, right? But we do have aggression, right? Look at this. Sporting events, right? Depending on your perspective, this is aggressive behavior, even violent, right? And then they are celebrating, right? After this aggressive behavior, right? And then if you are rooting for South Carolina at that point, you might be really excited as well, right? So we may not like this, but we may enjoy something like this. Depending on your perspective, this can be pretty aggressive. Not just watching it, sometimes we may engage in aggressive behavior, right? Video games, right? Aggressive. I know it is not real, but we actively pursue aggressive behaviors, right? Not just watching aggressive behavior. Right? But it all depends on your perspective, right? It may not be aggressive behavior, right? Depending on your position. So we will do some activities. So it is aggressive behavior. A child punches a large plastic doll. Is this aggressive behavior? There is no correct answer here. Like I said, it depends on your perspective. So you can say yes or no. I just wanted to hear your opinions. Is this aggressive behavior?
Yes.
Why? No one hurts here, right?
But you don't have to inflict pain to be aggressive with intent.
So intention is aggressive, right? Right? Okay. Maybe intention is critical. How about this? A group of children refuse to the new classmate play with them. So they just isolate this new classmate. Is it an aggressive behavior?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
It's probably passive aggressive,
Passive aggressive.
but it's still psychological and
Yeah. Still psychological pain.
No.
Maybe no, because it's no physical thing, right? No physical aggression is involved here. The answer may be no, right? But if you focus on intention, right? This may be aggressive behavior, right? Clearly, intention here is hurting this new classmate, right? But it is not physical pain; it's psychological pain, right? So maybe intention is involved. Then how about this? A little bit more. A murderer is executed in the electric chair after being sentenced to die. Killing is clearly aggressive, but in this case, is it a really aggressive behavior? Or
Yes.
Yes.
yes? Why?
As you're shocking them to death, I mean, you could do lethal injection or something less
Oh, okay.
horrible.
Okay. Alright, so killing itself might not be aggressive, but the way they killed this person,
But
that's...
aggressive doesn't, it might be justified aggression, but it's still aggression.
Right.
I mean,
But we focus on intention up until this point. Here, what's the intention of doing this? Hurting someone or maintaining social justice, right?
Yeah.
Depending on your position, right? So it's really tricky, right? So here, for some people, this is just act of maintaining social justice, right? But for some other people, this is just punishment, right? Physical punishment. So depending on your position. aggression. This may be aggressive behavior, maybe not, right? How about this?
Yes.
Compared to this,
Ooh. Yeah. Hannibal.
both of them are equally
Yeah.
aggressive, or one is more than the other.
Both of them are pretty, yeah.
Both of them equal, or
Probably the first one more.
first one more? Why?
I don't know, just the fact that you have to mount it and then look at it and then.
Yeah, let's assume that both of them, if they are same person, then which one is more aggressive?
Oh, we all do remember the last one.
Both of them.
I would say the first one, because then you're kind of proud of killing something, and the second one may just be out of like necessity.
Okay, out of necessity.
Oh, that's a good point. So,
Other opinions?
I think it's both the same aggression, because like, it's not a question of if it's right or wrong, it's like, is it conflicting between the two? And I think both of them are. So, I mean, you could say that the first one is wrong, the second one is right, because we all do. But it's not.
Any other one?
I agree with what she was saying. I think it's equally aggressive. I mean, I've seen how some people will kill animals for food. It's pretty bad.
Other opinions?
They would both, I mean, just from the examples, from what we've said so far, I believe they would both be considered aggressive, because I mean, even if you're going to say that killing an animal in order to eat it is out of necessity, if we've already said that executing someone that murdered someone else is aggressive, their execution, according to our standards, would be out of necessity for the crime that they committed. So if it's out of necessity, that's nothing to do with it. It's still an act of aggression.
Okay, so like I said, there is no right or wrong answer here. I just wanted to hear your opinions. So, two different things you can focus on here. One, the consequence, the result. Animal was killed, right? Result, if you focus on the result, same, right? But if you focus on the intention, different, right? There is no necessary reason. Here, may be necessary, right? In order to survive, they may have to kill, right? So, depending on your perspective, result is important or intention is important, right? A lot of examples like this, right? Another two things: a participant in a psychology experiment administered electric shock to another participant to signify wrong response, right? Is it aggressive behavior? What's the intention here? Even when you want to focus on intention, intention may be obscure. It's ambiguous. Here, what's the intention? Punishing the other participants or contributing to the science, right? Intention itself is also kind of ambiguous, right? Another example like this, a soldier in a war. Right? What's the intention? Killing or protecting their country, right? Protecting their family. Right? So as you can see here, it is really difficult, right? First, there are two different perspectives. Focusing on the consequence and then focusing on intention. Even if you decide to focus on intention, intention is often very ambiguous, right? Multiple interpretations. So, another example. So in psychology, we just define aggression like this. Any behavior aimed at causing either physical or psychological pain. it is really difficult to figure out the true intention, right? Not only physical or psychological pain, that's aggressive behavior. Right? Then it's really clear what is aggressive behavior or is not. But we have to talk about different types of aggression, right? Depending on their intention, depending on other factors, there are different types of aggression. Right? One of them is hostile aggression. So here, aggression is a goal. Aggression for the sake of aggression. Hurting other people itself is their goal. That's hostile aggression. But in some other case, aggression is just a means to achieve other goals. Right? Death penalty, for example, or war. Aggression itself is not a goal. Aggression is a means to achieve other goals. Then it's instrumental aggression. Stopping a crime, winning a sport, or even self-defense. For these goals, we may end up being aggressive behavior. But that aggressive behavior is clearly different from this, right? Here, hurting other people is goal. Right? So any kind of behavior involving physical and psychological pain can be defined as aggressive behavior. But depending on their intention, there are two different types of aggression. Any question? Who will be more aggressive? Obviously, even in the same situation, some people may be more aggressive than the others, right? So there are individual differences in terms of aggressiveness, right? There are individual differences. But this class is a social psychology class, so we focus on situational factors. We are not focusing on who is more aggressive, who is not, who is less aggressive. We focus on when aggressive behavior increase and when aggressive behavior decrease, regardless of their individual level of aggression. Situational determinants of aggression. Situational factors that can influence aggressive behavior. This does not imply that individual differences is not important. Right? It is important. Same situation, some people more aggressive, some people less aggressive. We admit that, but here in social psych class, we focus on situational factors. So what are the situational factors that may increase aggressive behavior? Competition. So real competition, more conflict, more aggression. Right? Other?
Like danger.
Danger. So like self-defense, you're threatened, more aggressive.
Atmosphere, the atmosphere,
What kind of it?
like in the summer, people are more aggressive
Right? Why?
because of the heat.
Because of the heat. Uncomfortable, right? Environment. Which environment?
Like where they live, could be more dangerous, and have to be more aggressive, hostile.
I see. Hostile environment. So in certain environment, people may be exposed to more aggression, so they are habituated and then more risk. Or physical aggression is really frequent in certain environment, then people may end up being aggressive. So is that okay? So exposure to other aggression, right? That may increase. So there are so many factors, but various other things like heat, as he mentioned, can increase aggression. High temperature are related to higher rates of aggression. Violent crimes like murder and rape occurred more during summer compared to spring, fall. During winter, really cold, everyone is inside, so less opportunity to be aggressive. And then, but even compared to spring and fall, summer, a lot more murders and rapes. Why? Uncomfortable feelings. Right? So they are easily angered. Right? Unpleasant. More acts of violence occur in cities that have higher average temperature. And then we are living in that. So this is not the case. Even baseball pitcher, they are more likely to hit batters with the ball as the weather gets hot. So hot weather is really something, because feelings of discomfort caused by the heat may be misattributed to other people. You are really, really irritated because of the weather, but somehow you believe that this is because of him or because of her. Then that person is responsible, so you're maybe a little bit more aggressive. You want to retaliate, right? So this is another example of misattribution of arousal. You are aroused, irritated, but you don't know why. So you misattribute that to other person, then you may be more aggressive. Media, more exposure to violence, right? Media violence. This is a movie Taxi Driver. Have you ever seen this movie? So here, Robert De Niro attempts to assassinate politician. Right? That's a part of the story. Right after this movie, I forgot his name, but Jonathan Hinckley. Well, his name is not important, but this person attempts to assassinate Ronald Reagan after watching this movie. So this is kind of an extreme example of media violence. Right? So that's copycat violence. Right? After watching a certain movie, people try to imitate what happened in the movie. Right? Then obviously this will be more likely to happen when people identify with the perpetrator more. And then the act is seen as justified, then more violence. Right? Somehow Jonathan thinks that, oh, he is someone like me. Identification. And the behavior itself is justified in the movie. Then maybe it is okay for something like me to do this. Okay to do something like this, right? It is justified. So that's copycat violence. As you can see here, evidence suggests that media violence can increase aggressive behavior. There is a huge debate around this issue, right? Whether actually media violence can increase aggression or not. I mean, we do have correlation. Watching more violent TV shows, more aggression. That's correlation, right? But about the causation, so there is no debate about the correlation. But about the causation, there is a huge debate. In one position, yes, watching violent media make people more aggressive. Another position says that, no. Already aggressive people will watch violent media. In both ways, we have high correlation between them, right? aggressive people watching violent media, or watching media, violent media can make people more aggressive, right? So then, and then, in order to clarify causal relationship, you have to do experiments, right? But in this case, it is really difficult to do. If you really, really believe that media violence can make people more aggressive, then it's really difficult to assign certain people to a certain condition where they have to watch a lot of media violence, right? It may be unethical, right? So if you really believe causation, it's really difficult to do experiments, right? So there are a lot of difficulties to test this causal relationship, but at least conclusion at this point is this. There is actually causal relationship, not just correlation. Media violence can increase aggressive behavior. So in one study, they recruited children at age 8. Then they examined how much they are watching violent media, right? They measured, right? And then at age 35, we contacted all those children and measured how aggressive they are, right? And then what they found is this. Oh, age 30, not 35. So criminal behavior by age 30 can be predicted by how much, or their preferences for violent TV at age 8. And then in this study, they controlled for aggressiveness at age 8. So regardless of how aggressive they were at age 8, regardless of that, people who have high preference for violent TV commit more crimes at age 30. In this study, because they control for initial differences in aggressiveness, it is not like aggressive people watch more TV shows and end up doing aggressive behavior. That difference, initial difference is statistically controlled. So regardless of their aggressive level at age 8, media violence can predict crime at age 30. Obviously, aggressive at age 8 can predict criminal activities at age 30, right? More aggressive children will end up doing more aggressive behavior, right? That's true as well. But on top of that, there is media effect. So at least research like this shows this causal relationship between media violence and individual aggressive behavior. That's what I just concluded.
Video games.
Nowadays, video games. Watching TV is kind of passive experience, right? Just watching it, right? But video games, it's a lot more active, right? You are doing something aggressive, right? So, a lot of shooting incidents. This is one of them, right? Columbine High School, right? And then they said that they are playing, I forgot the name of this game, they played this game a lot, right? And the question is, the fact they are doing this kind of video games is related to whether they end up doing this one, right? So at this point, there is causal relationship as well. So after doing video games, people end up being more aggressive, right? So playing video games may not be good, right? But it depends on the content of video games, right?
it's asked me, are video games good or bad? But I think that's the wrong question to ask, because video games are like a tool. And like any tool, they can be used for good or ill. Video games can teach good eye-hand coordination, for example, but violent games can also teach children how to behave in a more aggressive way. Video games have different types of content. Sometimes the games are violent, and our research and research of other people have shown that violent games can make kids more aggressive. They can make them more afraid of becoming a victim of violence themselves, and they can even make kids numb to the pain and suffering of others. On the flip side, positive games can teach kids to be more cooperative and more helpful. We recently published an article describing the results of 3 studies from 3 very different cultures, Singapore, Japan, and the United States. In one of the studies, participants were randomly assigned to play one of 3 types of video games, either a violent game, a neutral game, or a positive game. And then they could choose puzzles for their partner to solve. And if their partner solved the puzzles, their partner got some money. And what we found is that the participants who played the violent games chose really hard puzzles for their partner to solve. So the partner could never win the money. In contrast, participants who played the positive games chose easy puzzles for their partner to solve, so their partner could win the money. It's summertime, kids are out of school, and they want to spend more time playing video games. What's a parent to do? Well, most doctors recommend that kids should spend no more than 2 hours a day consuming media. One of the best things parents can do is monitor the content of the video games their children play. They can either play the games with the children or at least watch their children play the games.
Okay, so the contents of video games is important. It's not like video games is bad across the board. Especially recent study shows that cognitive video games can have buffering effect for cognitive declines. So older people playing some sort of video games, their cognitive ability is more intact than those who do not play any video games. Right? So, and then certain video game is good for cognitive development as well. But playing violent video games may make you more aggressive. Right?
So that would be like Civilization versus Halo. If you were like to compare and contrast it, an example would be like Civilization versus Halo.
That's the game.
Or Call of Duty or
The
something.
name of games. Because I'm not good.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I should stop.
Yeah. I do play video games, but and then social rejection. So anyone, any one of us will be very, very aggressive when we are rejected. In fact, one of the experimental manipulation that can produce lots of aggressive behavior is this cyberbullying. Here, there are 3 players. They are separated by cubicles. So what they are doing is tossing the ball to each other. So they toss the ball to here and here. Sometimes they throw the ball to you. And you choose which one you're going to throw to, right? So passing the ball. But in some condition, they're just tossing the ball to each other, but they are not tossing the ball to you. You are rejected, right? They are not throwing the ball to you. They are just throwing to each other, right? So that's kind of social rejection. After this manipulation, a lot of negative things can happen, right? Participants are a lot more aggressive. They feel terrible. And a lot of negative things happen, right? So usually social rejection leads to more aggressive behavior. Even really, really, really nice people, they can be very aggressive when they are rejected like this. And in a similar vein, income inequality, right? So not the absolute level of income, but relative to others, how poor you are. Sometimes you may think, oh, this is not fair, you are excluded, like rejected, then a lot of aggression. Right? So income inequality is positively correlated with homicide communities, right? So more unequal country, more homicide. Positive relations. Unfortunately, U.S. is really, really high in terms of then a lot of homicide. I mean, there are other factors, right? Gun control, everything, right? But still, you can see this positive relationship. So income, absolute level of income is not that important. It is important, but all the biological needs, food, shelter, clothes, all those biological needs are resolved. And after that, it's relative position. Inequality is much more important than the absolute level of income. So it is related to social rejection, right? So the income distribution is unfair, then they may feel that they are rejected, right? So we are facing this. All right, but at the beginning of this class, we talked about two different things. Right? Situation is important, right? But it's your interpretation of the situation, not the objective situation, right? So same thing here. Situational factors are important, but your interpretation of it is much more important. For example, heat, high temperature, right? If you interpret that as an opportunity to swim or to do a sunbathe, something like this, right? Then not necessarily negative, right? So it depends on your interpretation. So control process or interpretation is really, really important. So along this line, there's this theory. Whenever you have a frustration, that frustration will lead to aggression. Why people end up doing aggressive behavior? According to this theory, because you are frustrated. If you see this situation is frustrating, if that's your interpretation, then your reaction will be aggressive. That's this theory. Then, when you are frustrated, your goal is blocked. You wanted to do something, but that attempt is blocked. You fail. Then you are frustrated, so aggressive. Then it also depends on how desirable the goal was. It is really desirable, you really, really wanted to do that, and then you fail. A lot more frustration, so more aggressive. Then how much the goal has been towards you, right? So it is just partial success and partial failure, or just entire failure. It depends on that. Then how close you are to achieving that goal, right? So someone cut in the line, right? But you are the next person. Compared to you are at the end of the line, right? In front of you, ahead of you, there are hundreds of people, right? And then someone just cut in. 100% plus one more person doesn't make any difference, right? But if you are the right next person, right, and then someone cut in, you really frustrated, but you're angry, right? So that's frustration aggression theory. This is really simple theory, right? Interpretation of situation, frustration, then aggression, right? probably, but it's too simple, right? So there are critics about this theory. So the essence of this theory is this: when your goal is blocked, then you are frustrated. Then in order for you to be aggressive, then your goal should be blocked. But that's not always the case. For example, heat. Regardless of whether you face or achieve your goal, high temperature make you more aggressive, right? So sometimes you can be aggressive, independent of whether our goal is blocked or not. So goal block is not necessary. Then another critic is this: not all frustration leads to aggression. When we're frustrated, this theory predicts that we will be aggressive. But sometimes when we frustrated, sometimes we end up doing nothing, helpless, right? You are really frustrated. This theory says that you will be really aggressive. Right? In reality, if you are really frustrated, sometimes you lose all sorts of motivation, so you end up doing nothing, right? So frustration may not necessarily produce more aggression. Right? So that's going to have questions. And then obviously this theory is not perfect. There is new theory, right? Narrow associations count. But I will talk about this next class because I have really important to call to see so we have all the questions. But we will stop here. Okay. Also, like I said in exam 4, there will be short answer questions, right? And then I will post key terms for that question today. Okay? So there will be 40 key terms. Then out of 40 key terms, there will be 25 questions, right?
What Scantron will we need for this?
Or you just write down the answer on the exam.
On the exam?
On the
Okay.
exam. And then the definition of those key terms, you can find them in the textbook. So I will pick 40 key terms among those words, right? And then I will use this textbook definition. So I will provide textbook definition, then you will have to write down the key terms that corresponds to the definition. Okay? Right, that's it.